Right, good day all. So moving along to Surah 7. Moving along to Surah 7. This book revealed to you, this book has been revealed to you, so let there not be distress on your heart. Let there not be distress upon your heart, right? So that you may warn thereby and be a reminder for believers. Right? This book is really a sort of wit, right? So they said that they would question, right? They will surely question those whom the book has been revealed, right? They said that they will question those to whom the book has been revealed, right? One of those persons being me, right? But trust me when I say this series of questioning commentary that has invaded me, right, has not been angelic, has not been godly, right? And I don't know if it's from the American side, or it's from the Islamic side, or it's from the English side, or it's from the Chinese side, or it's from the Indian side, or from the African side, or from Trinidad side, or Jamaican, anywhere in the world, right? Korean, I don't know where these invasions or infiltrations into my mind and body has come from. We're talking about the nanobot situation and whatever, right? Anyhow, we are here and we are moving forward. I was called to what? Read through this book. One of the things I had to do in this life is read through this book, correct it, right? Correct the verses, because a lot of things are in fact. And yeah, you know what? I'm saying this and I'm saying this on camera. I am actually, there are certain verses that I am denying, right? Good. So yeah, so they said that they will surely question those to whom a message has been sent, right? And the way these two verses 7, 8, 8 and 9, the weighing of deeds on this day will be the truth. So those scales that are heavy in good deeds are those who will be successful, and those scales that are light in bad deeds will not be successful, right? They said that you have been established upon the earth, right, and made therein, the earth has been made therein for the ways of livelihood has been placed upon the earth for you, right? Right, so clothing has been bestowed upon you to conceal your private parts, right? To conceal your private parts, right? So this is for people who who do not dress modestly and so on, and choose to come online on cameras and so on with panty and bra to read tarot cards and all these kind of things, right? Because people are entities out there forcing you, they are poking at your pants, right? They are poking at your pants on your foot, and I've been experiencing it, saying that he, meaning Allah or whoever, or your kingdom spouse or whoever they want to call it as, right? They are saying that he eats this, meaning your pants, right? So that's why I gather, right? I gather that's what's been happening to others, right? That mental manipulation, technological manipulation, electronic harassment, whatever, right? For people who are being poked every night, right? If they're wearing a pants to sleep, you're single, you're home alone, you're in your room alone, right? Electronic harassment, poking at your pants. You hear this. For you to come online dressed in a panty and bra to read to read scripture or read tarot cards, right? So let me move on with this, right? Clothing has been bestowed upon you to conceal your private parts, right? And in fact your entire body, right? So this is about what? Dressing modestly. It doesn't mean you have to wear a hijab, right? It doesn't mean you have to wear a hijab, right? Or face coverings and all that, but just dress modestly, right? That's all. Just dress modestly, and that's all it's saying, right? So Allah does not order immorality, right? Eat, drink, but do not be excessive. He, she, it does not like those who commit excess, right? God has only forgiven more immoralities, right? God has only forbidden immoralities, right? What is apparent and what is concealed, right? So apparent immoralities, meaning immoralities that we see in the outside world and we know of, right? And concealed immorality is that which people hide and do wrong, right? You hide and do something wrong. You hide bribery, all these things, right? So we are talking about apparent things that people see outright as being done wrong and know of, such as, for example, crimes and so on, like actual physical crimes. And we're talking about white collar crime, backstage crimes. And then we're talking about things like human trafficking, child abuse, domestic violence, things that are actually not seen, right? Pornography, what goes on in the pornography industry behind the scene, what goes on in the entertainment industry behind the scene, dark side things that we know not of, right? This is what we are trying to deal with, right? So God has forbidden what? Oppression as well. The book says oppression without right, but God has forbidden oppression on the whole, right? Because there is no right in oppression. So that's a wrong statement to phrase that thing, right? Oppression, that Allah has forbidden oppression without right. There is no right in oppression, right? So God has forbidden oppression, right? Right, it says that for every nation is a specified term, meaning that civilizations rise and fall, right? Civilizations rise and fall until people come to an understanding of peace and move forward with peace and clarity. Civilization will rise and fall until all of humanity come to an understanding of peace and to move forward with peace on earth, right? Right. So whoever fears consequence, meaning fear God, fear Allah, fear consequence, whoever fears consequence and reform, change their behavior, there will be no fear concerning them, nor will they grieve, right? So that's why I said, certain things I'm not afraid of, right? I'm not afraid of certain things because what? You accept consequences for past behavior, you change, you move on, right? And you will not be charged with anything that is outside of your capacity, right? Right. So it says that your resentment in your heart will be removed, right? So the only way that I see this resentment in my heart and the heart of many others who actually fight on the good side of things to be removed is for the evils of the world to be removed, right? The evils of the world to be removed, which I mentioned before when I talked about just now, the immoralities of the world or things that are forbidden, right? Forbidden. All those dark side things that are happening that are concealed, right? Good. So as to what? Read this book with a sense of discernment as well, right? Because certain things, all these things are in fact traps, right? So we are trying to get out of the trappings of these situations, right? So who took their religion? So do not take your way of life or your principles as distraction. Do not take the trappings of religion, right? Do not even take the trappings of your religion, right? That's the whole point about it, right? Do not accept the trappings of your religion, right? That's what we're trying to get away from. So we are trying to get away from the trappings of religion, right? The traps, right? Meaning that the things that religion, how religion actually functions to maintain certain evils in the world. That's what we're trying to get away from, right? Right. So it says in the book that earth belongs to Allah. I made the point earlier that Allah, Islam is supposed to be a completely human religion or human way of life, right? Meaning that so in that way, earth actually belongs to humans, right? There's no owner of the earth, so to speak, right? There's no human authority. There is no human or demigod or anything like that runs earth, right? There is no human or demigod or anything like that runs earth, right? Allah has control of the earth, and by that it means that what? Humans by right, as in not subject to state or government or anything like that. Humans, by right, have the right to, by being born on earth, you are free to occupy earth, right? You are free to occupy earth. And I made the point that this does not mean a repeat of the Christopher Columbus situation, where one group of people who have been historically dominant in society come and try to take over earth. But in fact, justice for those who are historically disadvantaged, right? To have certain occupancy of certain spaces in the earth and so forth, right? Good. Whoever the groups or peoples throughout groups might be, right? Right, so this is it here, right? So God caused or will cause the people who have been oppressed to inherit earth, or inherit different parts of the earth, right? Right, so it is said that certain people will what? Seek God, but they won't find God, right? Certain people would seek God, but they won't find God. That is why, because you're expecting a certain God to look a certain way, speak a certain way, behave a certain way, be a certain way, right? Your religion will have trained you to see God a certain way, approach God a certain way, right? Say God is this, God is that, God is that. Therefore, most of the earth will what? Seek God and will not find God, right? Because of your expectations of what God is supposed to be, right? And God doesn't even have a face, right? So the signs will be what? Turned away. Signs of God will be turned away from those who are arrogant and not accepting of it, right? For those who what? See the way of consciousness and do not adopt it, right? Right, so they said that what? You shouldn't take animals as your worship either, right? So along with not taking stones or objects, idols as your worship, to not to take animals as your worship. What we want to do is have empathy for animals, empathy for the pain that they go through, right? Not to take them as worship. So, like, for example, in certain prayers, and there's in the Hindu community and so on, like certain prayers people have, and they what? Bring a cow, and you see them doing what? Arti over the cow and so on, worshiping this cow as though it is God itself, right? So all these practices is to move away from it. You don't worship calves, you don't worship cows. This is nothing to there's nothing to be like to set these people ablaze or anything. That concept is a whole stupidness, right? They do not set people ablaze or do away with people because what they're doing arty over a cow. What I'm trying to say is that you move away from nonsensical practices. That's what, gently move away from practices that, what was the sense in doing arty over a cow, right? That's worshiping. You're worshiping an animal, right? You are worshiping an animal, right? And there is no sense in worshiping an animal. What you should just do is ensure that an animal is properly treated, well treated, grass, provided with water, whatever, not to do arty over or to worship, right? Same thing with what? This Calbero or energy, or to worshiping a dog energy, right? You have a dog as a pet, nothing is wrong with having a dog as a pet, but to worship these things, do arty over these things, right? We are moving away from these things, right? Right. So people ask about the hour, right? When is the final hour, right? When is the final hour, right? That knowledge is only with God. We don't know when the final hour is. I don't know when my final hour is. My final hour could be today. My final hour could be when I complete teaching this Quran. My final hour could be after I give birth. My final hour could be after I raise a child, right? My final hour could be anything, right? So I do not know. So even if we try to which is something I tried to do in the past, right? Not that I was asking for that, I was trying to figure out through certain mechanism. I was trying to figure out, hey, when might I die, right? When might I die? Because I've been heavily invested in the topic of death since I was small, right? So I've been trying to figure out, hey, when my death date might be, right? So these are things that God is saying that we shouldn't try to figure out these things, right? We shouldn't try to figure out when our death will be, right? DEATH, right? We should not try to find out when our DEATH death will be, right? When that time comes, we just have to make sure that you are mentally prepared, emotionally prepared to what? Detach, right? Detach from the things of the world, right? Right. So there are some who incarnate on earth and others hate them, right? So people are referred to as false deities, false objects of worship, and all human beings, right? Have been referred to what? False deities, right? False objects of worship, whatever, right? And they are unable, the 192, we're talking about Surah 7, 192, right? And the book says, and they are unable to give others help, nor can they help themselves, right? So spit this verse out, right? Spit this verse out, right? I am denying that verse, because guess what? I have seen many, right? I have seen many who have been helping others since they were small. I have seen others who help others, right? I have seen with my own eyes, and it has been revealed to me, right, how people actually try to, people who descend on earth, who have been accused of being false deities, whatever, have descended on earth and have done nothing but to try to help others, right? So spit that verse out, right? Surah 7, 192, right? So 194. Right, so that's the point I was trying to make before. Those who polytheists, or like how Hindus or even Africans and so on, right, worship, or those who you call upon, right, they are only but servants. And that's why this book is very contradictory. You're saying one thing in one verse, coming in the next verse, next couple of verses, and saying something else, right? They are servants, right? Those who are claim to be what? False deities actually do service, perform selfless service to others, right? So 192 is to do away with that, right? So indeed, those who others call upon, right, besides Allah, are but servants, right? Normal human beings like you and I, right? Right, so this said that the Quran, this book, right, or the actual sensical parts of the book, is enlightenment from God and guidance and mercy for people who believe, right? So when it is recited, listen to it, take it in, acknowledge it, right? When it is recited, take it in, listen to it, and pay attention to it, right? And remember God within yourself in humility, and simply remember God within yourself in humility, right? So this is the end of Surah 7, right? See you all tomorrow in the next video.